You're too much, but I'll go through with it, she trembled as the cowboy claimed his virgin bride. On this far edge of known space, silence was a warning. Captain Mara Klein stood on the metal balcony of Outpost Helios 9. She watched the horizon through cracked goggles, her hands shaking slightly. She did not like this place. No one did, but humanity had no choice. Helios 9 was the last human station in this sector. Everything beyond it belonged to the Cathari Union, an alien empire older, larger and stronger than any human force. They had conquered world after world without mercy. Humans were next. Mara took a slow breath. She was not afraid of death. She was afraid of failure. Inside the command room, alarms were quiet but active, humming like insects trapped in a box. Officers moved with tired steps. Supplies were low. Ships were few. Hope was thinner than the air outside. "Captain," said Lieutenant Owen Price, walking up beside her. "Long-range sensors just updated." Mara turned. "Tell me." Owen hesitated. That was never a good sign. "Cathari ships crossed the outer marker 3 hours ago. They are not attacking yet." Mara closed her eyes. "They're waiting." "Yes," Owen said, "for us to answer." Everyone knew what that meant. Weeks ago the Cathari had sent a message, not a threat, not a demand, an offer. Humanity could survive if they accepted Cathari protection. In return, humans would give up their independence in this sector. No weapons, no fleets, no expansion, no resistance. Many leaders on Earth wanted to accept. Others wanted to fight and die free. But there was a third option, a dangerous one, the cowboy. Mara turned away from the balcony and walked back inside. The command room fell quiet as she entered. Every eye followed her. "Open the channel," she said. A large screen lit up. Instead of an alien face, an image appeared, grainy and old. A man stood in the middle of a dust storm, wearing a long coat, wide hat, and metal boots. His face was rough. His eyes were calm, too calm. "Is that him?" someone whispered. "Yes," Mara said. "That's him. The legend, the man from the dust frontier." His real name was Elias Crow. Most people called him the Cowboy, though no one knew why. He came from the outer colonies, where law failed and survival meant everything. Stories said he had fought pirates, machines, and even alien scouts alone, and won. Some said he was too violent. Others said he was exactly what humanity needed. Mara swallowed. She did not like him, but she needed him. The image changed. Now it was live. Elias Crow stood in a small room, likely aboard his ship. The walls were scratched and burned. Behind him were weapons, old, new, human, alien. He looked directly at the camera. "You took your time," he said. His voice was deep but steady. No anger, no humor. "We needed to be sure," Mara replied. Elias nodded slowly. "Sure of what?" "That you would come," she said. He leaned forward. "I didn't say yes." Mara felt every officer tense. "You said," she answered carefully, "that if humanity ever stood at the edge of extinction, you would listen." "I said I'd listen," Elias corrected. "Not that I'd save you." Silence filled the room. Mara stepped closer to the screen. "Then listen now." She explained everything. The Cathari fleet, the offer, the weakness of human forces, the fear spreading across colonies. She did not hide anything. When she finished, Elias was quiet. Finally, he spoke. "You want me to do what your fleets can't?" "Yes," Mara said. "You want me to face an empire?" "Yes." "You want me to scare them," he said, "or break them?" Mara met his eyes. "We want you to remind them why humans are dangerous." A small smile touched his face, but it was not a kind one. "You're asking too much," he said. Mara nodded. "We know." He turned away from the camera, walking across his ship. Metal footsteps echoed. "You know what they'll do if I help you?" he asked. "They'll hunt you," Mara said. "They'll destroy my ship, my home, everything I have." "Yes." "And if I fail," Elias said, "humanity falls faster." "Yes." He stopped and looked back. "So why me?" Mara did not answer right away. She chose her words carefully. "Because the Cathari do not fear our ships," she said. "They do not fear our numbers, but they fear what they cannot predict." Elias watched her closely. and you are unpredictable." For a long moment he said nothing. Then he laughed softly, not happy, not cruel, just tired. "You're too much," he said, "all of you." Mara felt her heart sink. But he continued, "I'll go through with it." The room exploded with noise, gasps, relief, disbelief. Mara raised a hand for silence. "You will," Elias nodded once. "On one condition." Mara stiffened. "Name it." "I don't fight for orders," he said. "I don't fight for flags, I fight for people." "That's acceptable," she said. And, he added, "when this is over, humanity doesn't pretend this was easy. You remember the cost." Mara's voice softened. "We will." Elias stepped closer to the camera. His eyes burned with quiet fire. "Then get ready, Captain," he said, "because the Cathari are about to learn something." The screen went dark. Outside, the red dust winds began to rise. Far above Helios 9, alien ships moved into formation. And for the first time in years, humanity did not feel completely helpless. The first day of preparation passed slowly. Helios 9 hummed with controlled panic. Officers moved between terminals, checking weapons and ration packs. Drones scuttled across the metal floors, their sensors scanning for anything unusual. Outside, the dust storm made the horizon a wall of red and white. Yet in the command room, tension was hotter than the desert sun. Captain Mara Klein could feel it in her bones. Something was about to happen, and it would not be small. She walked past the crew, giving orders, checking logs, nodding at each officer. But her eyes kept drifting toward the empty space where the cowboy's image had been. "He's here," murmured Lieutenant Owen Price beside her. Mara did not answer, she knew it. The cowboy was not like any human they had ever counted on. He was different, dangerous, clever, unstoppable. If anyone could bend the Cathari, it would be him. But he was also unpredictable. The screens flickered suddenly, pulling everyone's attention. Elias Crow's face appeared again. No smile this time, just a sharp, measuring gaze. "Listen carefully," he said. "I've studied the fleet. I've watched the patrols. I know their habits, their weak points, and the holes in their sensors. But this is not a battle you can win by fighting. Not yet. You'll need to survive first." Mara nodded. "Tell us what to do." Elias leaned closer to the camera. "First, you need to trust me. Second, you need to stop thinking like soldiers and start thinking like humans who refuse to die. Third, you need to remember one simple rule. The Cathari fear unpredictability more than firepower." He paused. The silence in the room grew heavy. Then he added almost casually, "That is why I'm here, and that is why you will follow my lead even if it scares you." One officer snorted. "We didn't sign up to be scared." Elias' voice cut through the room, calm but cutting. "Then you've already lost." The command team fell silent. Mara pressed her lips together. He was harsh, yes, but he was right. Humanity would not survive by being neat and predictable. They would survive by being wild, clever, and dangerous. The first part of the plan was simple, though executing it would not be. The Cathari were moving in formation, expecting a human surrender. They assumed humans were weak, afraid, and slow. The cowboy would prove them wrong. "We strike before they know we are awake," Elias explained. "Sensors pick up every move we make. Communications are monitored, any hint of coordination, and they'll crush you like ants. So you scatter, you hide. You make them think you're already broken." Mara frowned. "You want us to pretend Helios 9 is abandoned?" "Yes," he said. "And while they focus on empty corridors and blinking lights, I will strike where it hurts." The room filled with questions. How could one man, alone, make a difference against an entire alien fleet? Mara wondered the same thing, but she had to trust him. "He's done it before," Owen said softly, almost to himself. "In the outer colonies, he outsmarted twice his number and lived. He's not human in the usual sense." Mara didn't argue. She simply gave the order. "Execute the cowboys' instructions. Begin evacuation procedures. All non-essential personnel will move to the underground bunkers. Only the command crew remains on the surface." Drones whirred to life, carrying messages and supplies. Transport pods began moving slowly toward the bunkers. The soldiers and engineers followed, their faces pale but their resolve firm. Helios 9 would survive if they followed the Cowboys' plan. By nightfall, the station was almost empty. The command room was quiet, the only sounds coming from machines and occasional murmurs. Mara watched the red storm outside and felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Then, the cowboy arrived. Not in person but through the static of the main communications channel. His ship, the Dust Reaper, appeared on the station's sensors, small, fast, almost invisible against the dust storm. "He's in position," said Owen, "and judging by speed and trajectory, he's alone." Mara felt a chill. One man against a fleet. Impossible. Yet somehow Elia's Crow had always done the impossible. The cowboy's voice came over the speaker, calm, steady, almost bored. "I have a path through their defenses. I'll hit their supply ships first. They won't see me coming. When they do, it will be too late." "Supply ships?" Mara asked. "Yes," Elias replied. "The Cathari rely on constant resupply. Ammo, food, fuel, take that away and you cripple them without firing a single shot at their main fleet. They'll panic. They'll make mistakes. That's when humans act." Mara felt a spark of hope. It was risky, yes, but it was brilliant. The cowboy understood not only strategy but psychology. He understood fear, and he would make the Cathari afraid. Hours passed as the Dust Reaper slipped through the storm, a ghost in the red haze. Mara watched the live feed, noting every movement. The cowboy was fast, precise, and silent. He avoided patrols, dodged satellites, and used every shadow the storm offered. Then, the first strike. Explosions rocked the outer perimeter. Small supply pods, heavily armored, burst into flames. Mara felt a rush of adrenaline. The Cathari ships reacted immediately, sending patrols to investigate. They did not see the cowboy. They never did. "Perfect," Elias said over the comms. "Now we wait." Mara glanced at Owen. "Wait, what do you mean wait?" "They'll respond," Elias explained. "They always respond, and when they do, humans will strike. Your scouts are ready. All you need is to be patient and ready." Patience was difficult for Mara. Every second stretched like a rope pulled too tight. But she knew he was right. They could not rush. They could not be predictable. Hours passed. Then, alarms. Cathari scouts had detected movement. Red lights flashed across the command panels. Mara felt her pulse quicken. "They found some supply ships," Owen said. "They're moving in to intercept." "Good," Elias said calmly. "Exactly what I wanted." Mara frowned. "You want them to find the supplies?" "Yes," the cowboy replied. "They'll focus on the small loss. They'll underestimate humans. They'll assume we're weak. That's when the real plan begins." From her station, Mara could see human scouts moving from hiding places. Small ships, fast and agile, slipped out like shadows. They had weapons, yes, but their real strength was surprise. The Cathari did not expect it. The first Cathari scout ship exploded, then another. The cowboy struck again. The fleet's formation wavered, confusion spread. Mara could feel it like electricity in the air. "Captain," Owen said, eyes wide, "they're breaking formation." Mara did not answer. She barely dared to breathe. The cowboy had given them a gift, a moment of chaos, and humans were about to seize it. Across the station, Mara's crew moved like a single organism. Each action was precise. Each strike calculated. It was unlike anything they had trained for. Fear had sharpened them. Necessity had made them clever. And above it all, the cowboy's ship danced through the storm, invisible, untouchable, unstoppable. Finally, the message came through. Elias Crow's calm voice filled the room. "They know they underestimated us," he said. "They are scared, and scared empires make mistakes. Remember that. We finish this together, Captain. Together, humans show what we are." Mara felt a surge of pride. They were not defeated. They were not weak. They were human. And humans, when cornered, were unpredictable, dangerous, unstoppable. The first night of the Cowboys' plan had ended, but Mara knew it was only the beginning. The Cathari would regroup. They would strike back. And when they did, every human on Helios 9 would have to fight harder than ever before. Yet for the first time in years, Mara allowed herself a small smile. Humanity was alive. The cowboy had kept his word. And they were ready to prove that humans, even on the edge of the universe, could fight back and win. The morning sun barely cut through the dust storm. Helios 9's metal walls rattled under the constant wind, but inside, the station was alive with energy, not fear. Captain Mara Klein moved quickly through the command room, her boots echoing against the floor. Each console flashed warnings, but the crew had learned to read between the lines. They were no longer just humans in hiding. They were strategists, fighters, survivors. The Cathari had responded faster than anyone had expected. Patrols now circled the station with silent precision, and small attack ships swooped past like predatory birds. Their sensors scoured the terrain, looking for any sign of human activity. But the cowboy had already outsmarted their first wave. The humans' morale had soared, but Mara knew the real challenge was only beginning. "Captain," Lieutenant Owen Price said, pointing at the sensor screens, "they've split their fleet. Some patrols are chasing shadows from last night's strikes. Others are moving to cut off the escape route for the underground bunkers." Mara frowned. "Which means they're trying to trap us." "Yes, but—" Owen hesitated. "The path isn't perfect. There's a gap in their formation wide enough for fast ships. That's where the cowboy will strike next." Mara's lips pressed into a thin line. "We follow his plan, no improvisation." The command room fell silent. Everyone knew the stakes. The cowboy was dangerous, yes, but not reckless. And right now, following him was their best chance of survival. On the station monitors, a tiny speck appeared in the storm, the Dust Reaper. Its engines burned bright against the red haze, weaving through Cathari patrols with impossible precision. Mara felt a thrill of hope. Every movement was calculated, every strike intentional. The first Cathari response was devastating. Small cruisers fired energy bursts at the Dust Reaper, attempting to force it out of position. The cowboy dodged effortlessly, moving in and out of blind spots, sometimes disappearing entirely in the storm. Then, suddenly, explosions erupted among the Cathari supply lines. Mara watched in awe as the fleet's fuel carriers and ammo ships were destroyed one by one. The Cathari did not understand what was happening. Their sensors were advanced, yes, but they could not predict chaos, and the cowboy was chaos incarnate. "Captain," Owen whispered, "they're panicking." Mara nodded. "Good, let them panic. That's when humans act." Meanwhile, inside Helios 9, Mara coordinated her crew. Scout ships emerged from underground bunkers, tiny and agile. They struck quickly, cutting communication lines and disabling weapon arrays on isolated Cathari ships. Each move was small, but combined with the cowboys' attacks, the effect was devastating. The Cathari fleet wavered. Then came the first real challenge. A Cathari dreadnought, massive and heavily armed, moved directly toward the station. Its sensors were sophisticated, its shields nearly impenetrable. The station's human ships were no match for it in direct combat. Mara's stomach tightened. "They'll destroy the station if we don't act," she muttered. "Not if we use their fear against them," Owen said. "The cowboys' plan relies on diversion. We need to split their attention." Mara quickly understood. The humans would become ghosts, moving unpredictably, striking, hiding, and retreating. Every Cathari ship that attacked the Dust Reaper or the station would fall into traps laid by humans who were cleverer, faster, and determined. "Get the decoy ships ready," she ordered. "We'll bait them toward the canyon. The cowboy will handle the rest." Inside the canyon, dust and rock formed natural barriers. It was narrow, dangerous, and unpredictable, perfect for human ingenuity. Scout ships moved silently, their engines minimized to avoid detection. Mara's heart pounded as she watched the operation unfold. Above, the Dust Reaper danced through the storm. Elias Crow's calm voice came through the comms. "Prepare for the bait," he said. "I'll be at the fleet's flank in 5 minutes. Stay sharp. Remember, unpredictable humans are dangerous humans." The Cathari fleet pursued the decoys, unaware of the trap. Mara felt a surge of pride. Humanity had been cornered countless times in history, but never had they been so clever, so united, so daring. Then came the strike. The canyon erupted. Hidden human weapons triggered at the exact right moment. Explosions ripped through Cathari ships as the Dust Reaper appeared from the storm, hitting from an unexpected angle. Mara's crew watched in awe. One moment the cowboy's ship was invisible, the next it struck with precision and speed. "Captain, the dreadnought!" Owen shouted. The massive Cathari ship had turned toward the canyon, trying to block the human assault. Mara's mind raced. A direct attack was suicide. But there was another way, a human way. "Target its engines, not the hull," she ordered. "Make it chase us, draw it into the canyon." Scout ships zipped between rocks, luring the dreadnought into traps. Mines buried in the sand exploded at key points, rocking the massive ship. Its shields flickered, and for a moment the massive vessel seemed almost vulnerable. The Dust Reaper struck again, hitting supply pods and weapon arrays with unerring accuracy. The Cathari fleet was in disarray. Mara watched the chaos unfold, her hands gripping the console. Humans had no right to be here. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, but they were alive, and they were winning. "Captain," Owen said, awe in his voice, "look at them. They're breaking. The fleet, it's falling apart." "Yes," Mara said softly, almost to herself. "Because humans refuse to die quietly." Across the canyon, the Cathari tried to regroup, but every attempt to reform their lines was thwarted. The cowboy struck from shadows, humans ambushed from hidden positions, and the canyon itself became a deadly maze for the invaders. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, casting long red shadows over the landscape. The Cathari fleet was shattered, scattered, and bleeding. Helios 9 had survived, but Mara knew it was not over. They had won a battle, yes, but the war was far from finished. The cowboy had proven humanity could strike and survive, but the Cathari were vast. They could replace ships, send reinforcements, and return stronger. Yet in this moment, Helios 9 celebrated. For the first time in decades, humans were not hiding. They were fighting. They were clever, bold, and unpredictable. They were dangerous. Elias Crow's voice came over the comms one last time for the day. Calm, measured, but filled with quiet fire. "You see, Captain, humans are not meant to obey. Humans are meant to fight. And when we do, the universe should pay attention." Mara smiled, exhaustion mixing with relief. The cowboy had done more than attack ships. He had reminded every human in that canyon why they survived, why they resisted, why they would never bow quietly. And that was a lesson the Cathari would not forget. Helios 9 had survived the first strike, but Mara Klein knew better than to trust the calm. The Cathari were relentless. They were vast, organized, and cruel. And now, with the first shock of human ingenuity behind them, they were angry. The morning dust storm had not passed. Red sand swirled across the horizon, making the outpost seem small and fragile. Inside, Mara and her command crew worked tirelessly, coordinating the scattered human forces. Each screen, each console, each sensor feed carried vital information. Lieutenant Owen Price's fingers flew over the controls. "Captain, they're regrouping faster than we expected. Reinforcements are approaching from the north sector. At least 10 capital ships, 200 fighters." Mara's stomach tightened. 10 capital ships, and they expect us to fight them." "They expect nothing," Owen corrected. "They assume we'll hide. But they don't know the cowboy is with us." Mara allowed herself a small smile. Elias Crow had changed the game once. Could he do it again? That was the question haunting every officer in the room. A signal flickered on the main screen. The cowboy's image appeared calm and steady as always. "Morning, Captain," he said. "Looks like they've learned something. They're coming faster, stronger, hungry for revenge, but that's good for us." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Good." "Yes," Elias replied. "When the enemy is confident, they make mistakes. We'll use their confidence against them. I've identified weak points in their fleet. We strike there first." He outlined a plan, precise and daring. The humans would divide their forces into small, nimble units. Each would feign retreat, draw enemy ships into traps, and hit supply lines. Meanwhile, the Dust Reaper would strike critical points in the Cathari command network, creating confusion and delays. "It's dangerous," Mara said, "and many will die." Elias nodded. "Yes. But humans are built for impossible odds. We'll win not by strength but by strategy and courage. Follow my lead." Hours later, the first clash began. The northern Cathari fleet appeared on the horizon, glinting in the pale sunlight. The red dust swirled around them, reducing visibility, giving human ships a chance to hide in the shadows. "Begin the diversion," Mara ordered. Scout ships darted out like sparks in a fire. They feigned attacks on Cathari patrols, then retreated. The enemy, confident and arrogant, pursued. Each step forward drew them closer to traps carefully laid in the canyon and hidden behind rocky ridges. The first Cathari capital ship fired a massive energy blast, missing its target and striking a canyon wall instead. Debris flew, creating smoke and confusion. Mara felt her heart race. This was the moment humans had prepared for. From the storm, the Dust Reaper struck. Elia's ship moved like a phantom, unseen until the last second. Explosions rocked the Cathari command ships. Communications failed. Sensors flickered. And in the chaos, human units attacked with precision. Mara watched in awe as the Cathari fleet struggled to respond. Ships collided, patrols got lost, and the human scouts picked off isolated targets with skill and courage. The Cathari had underestimated humans once again, but the cowboy knew this was only the beginning. "Captain," Elias said, "they'll try to regroup. We have only a small window. Hit their engines, disable their shields, and force them to scatter again. Every second counts." Mara relayed the orders. The human ships moved with practiced efficiency. Mines triggered at critical points, energy blasts disabled power conduits, and every strike was designed to confuse and slow the enemy. The Cathari were powerful, yes, but disorganized and panicked fleets were even more dangerous to themselves. Ships crashed into one another, patrols ran aground, and communication breakdowns created chaos. Mara felt a thrill. Humanity was fighting like never before. Every officer, every pilot, every engineer contributed to the victory. They were clever, fast, and determined. But the Cathari were not defeated yet. A massive dreadnought emerged from the dust clouds, larger than anything Mara had seen. Its weapons glowed with deadly energy. It moved with terrifying precision, aiming directly at Helios 9. Mara's crew froze. Even the cowboys' confidence could not hide the danger. "We need a plan," Mara said. "We cannot fight it head-on." Elias' calm voice replied over the comms. "Then we trick it. Draw it into the canyon, force it to navigate narrow passes. Its size will become its weakness. Humans will exploit that." Mara gritted her teeth. It was risky, deathly risky, but there was no other choice. "Prepare the traps," she ordered. "All units follow Cowboy's instructions." The canyon became a deadly maze. Human units hid behind cliffs, rocks, and dust clouds. The Cowboy's ship zipped through the storm, striking engines, shields, and supply lines. Each move was precise. Each strike calculated. The dreadnought followed the decoy ships into the canyon. It was a massive beast, slow and clumsy in the narrow space. Human minds exploded at the perfect intervals, rocking it side to side. Its weapons struggled to adjust. Every mistake was a victory for humanity. Mara's crew coordinated attacks from the station, guiding scouts, triggering traps, and relaying Elias' orders. Humans worked together like never before. Then, the final strike. The Dust Reaper appeared at the dreadnought's rear, hitting critical power nodes. Energy surged, weapons failed, shields flickered. The massive Cathari ship was trapped, vulnerable, and human units attacked with everything they had. Explosions rocked the canyon. Smoke and dust filled the air. The Cathari fleet scrambled to save their leader, but the human traps and attacks made every movement deadly. The dreadnought faltered, stumbled, and finally, with a massive explosion, it was destroyed. Silence followed. The dust storm covered the battlefield. Human units regrouped. The Cowboys' ship emerged from the haze, undamaged, triumphant. Mara allowed herself a rare smile. Humanity had won, not with superior firepower, but with intelligence, courage, and unity. The Cathari had been taught a lesson. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and unbowed. "Captain," Owen said, awe in his voice, "they won't forget this, not ever." "No," Mara said softly, "and neither will we. Humans survive not because we are strong, but because we refuse to die quietly, because we fight, because we think, because we care about each other. That is our power." The cowboy's voice came over the comms one last time. Calm, quiet, but full of fire. "You see, Captain, humans are dangerous. Not because we have more ships or weapons, but because we refuse to accept limits. Remember that. Always." Mara nodded. Humanity had survived. They had fought impossible odds and had won. But the war was not over. The Cathari would regroup, return stronger, and try again. Still, the humans of Helios 9 were no longer afraid. They had a leader they could trust, a plan that worked, and a courage that could not be broken. And in the heart of the dust frontier, they understood something important. Humans might be small, but they were clever, daring, and unstoppable. For the first time, the frontier felt alive, not with fear, but with hope. The red dust stretched endlessly across the horizon. Helios 9's walls shook as the storm roared, carrying grit and wind that stung like fire. Yet inside, humans were calm. Not comfortable, not safe, but calm. They had a plan. They had a leader they trusted. And they had the cowboy. Captain Mara Klein stood at the front of the command room, eyes scanning the sensors. Every readout told the same story. The Cathari were returning, larger and more aggressive than before. 10 capital ships, 400 fighters, Lieutenant Owen Price reported. His voice was steady, but Mara saw the tension in his eyes. They've learned from the canyon. They won't fall for the same trick twice. Mara's jaw tightened. Then we'll give them a new trick. The Dust Reaper had already positioned itself at the edge of the storm. Elias Crow's calm voice came over the comms, filling the command room. "Captain," he said, "they expect us to panic. That's their mistake. Humans do not panic. Humans fight. We hit them where they least expect it, and we force them into chaos." "Your plan?" Mara asked. "Divide and confuse," he replied. "Use the terrain, the storm, and every human tactic we can muster. They have strength. We have cunning. They will fear the unexpected, and in fear they are weak." Mara nodded. She had come to trust Elias' instincts completely. He had survived impossible odds before. Now he would help humanity survive them again. "Stations ready?" Mara asked. "All systems go," Owen said. "Scout ships in position," another officer added. "Drones ready for deployment," said a technician. Mara turned to face the team. "This is it. If we survive today, humans will not only live, they will prove that no empire can ignore us. Follow your orders, trust each other, and above all, think like humans, not machines. Are you ready?" A unified nod went around the room. Hearts pounded, but fear was replaced by focus. They had learned something important. They were stronger than the Cathari expected. The first wave of the Cathari approached. Massive ships cut through the dust storm, their sensors sweeping for life, their weapons ready. Mara's crew held their breath. The humans of Helios 9 were small against this armada, but they were clever. Elias' voice cut through the tension. "Phase 1, hit the flanks. Draw their attention outward. The main force will move where we want it. Scout ships darted out, small and fast like fireflies in the storm. They attacked lightly, then retreated. Cathari fighters gave chase. Mara could see confusion spreading through the enemy fleet. The cowboy had anticipated everything. Phase 2, Chaos. The Dust Reaper struck from the storm, invisible until the last second. Massive Cathari cruisers exploded as precise energy strikes disabled shields and engines. Human drones carried explosive charges, detonating near capital ships, forcing them to scatter. Mara's crew coordinated attacks like a single mind. Even the Cathari dreadnoughts, huge and powerful, were struggling. Their weapons fired blindly, hitting nothing but dust and debris. Every human move had been calculated to force mistakes. Then came the critical moment. Phase 3, the heart of their fleet, Elias said. Hit their command network, confuse their communication, make them fight each other. Mara's fingers moved rapidly across the consoles. Every system had a role: drones, scout ships, energy strikes, decoy signals. Humans became shadows, lightning and fire. The Cathari fleet was unraveling. Ships collided, fighters went missing, command ships were disabled. Panic spread. Mara felt a thrill. Humans had turned their greatest disadvantage into their greatest weapon: unpredictability. Captain Owen said, "They're breaking ranks. The main fleet is splitting. This is our chance." "Then we strike," Mara said. Human scout ships surged forward. Explosions rocked the red dust horizon. The Dust Reaper appeared again, moving through the storm with impossible speed. Every strike hit exactly where it would hurt most: engines, weapons, supply lines. The Cathari fought back, but their fleet was no longer coordinated. Mara's crew could barely keep up with the orders, but they didn't falter. Every decision, every maneuver was perfect in its execution. Humans were not stronger than the Cathari, they were smarter, faster, more daring. Hours passed and the battlefield became chaos. Dust and smoke hid explosions. Signals flickered. Ships were lost, but more Cathari ships fell. The Cowboys' plan was working beyond anyone's imagination. Then came the final strike. The largest Cathari command ship, a towering dreadnought that had led the fleet, appeared above Helios 9. Its weapons glowed ominously. It was the last threat standing. Mara's stomach tightened, but she did not show fear. She had seen the Cowboy work wonders before. She knew he had a plan. Phase 4, the final strike, Elias said calmly. Draw it into the canyon. Use every human trick, every hidden path, every explosive we have. This ends now. Scout ships lured the dreadnought toward the canyon. Mines buried in the sand erupted as planned. Energy strikes disabled weapons and shields. The Dust Reaper hit critical points, cutting communication and navigation systems. The Cathari command ship faltered, lost in the chaos of the canyon, vulnerable. Human ships attacked from every angle, precise and coordinated. The canyon became a trap, its walls echoing with explosions. Mara watched, heart pounding, as the dreadnought stumbled. Every system disabled, every weapon destroyed. Then, with a massive explosion that shook the canyon floor, the Cathari command ship was destroyed. Silence fell. The storm raged on, but the battlefield was quiet. The Cathari fleet had been defeated, or at least scattered beyond repair. Humans had survived against impossible odds. They had fought, not with raw power, but with courage, intelligence, and unity. The Dust Reaper hovered above the canyon, unscathed. Elias Crow's voice came over the comms, calm and steady. "You see, Captain, humans are dangerous. Not because we have the biggest ships, not because we have the strongest weapons, but because we refuse to accept limits. We fight, we survive, we win." Mara allowed herself a rare smile. "Yes," she said, "and today humanity proved it." Owen turned to her, eyes shining. "We did it, Captain, against all odds we did it." "Yes," Mara said, "because humans never give up. Because we think, we adapt, we care for each other. That is our strength. That is why the universe should never underestimate us." Outside, the red dust storm continued to swirl, but for the first time in decades, Helios 9 was safe. Humanity had survived, not by surrendering, not by hiding, but by being clever, daring, and unstoppable. The cowboys' ship disappeared into the horizon, a shadow in the storm, leaving humans to rebuild, to celebrate, and to remember. Humanity had won a decisive victory. They had shown the universe that even small, isolated humans could fight back against an empire and survive. Captain Mara Klein stood on the balcony, looking at the red sky. The wind bit her cheeks, the dust stung her eyes, but her heart was full. Humanity had fought and humanity had won, and in the dust frontier, humans were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, strategists, and legends. The cowboy had kept his word. Humanity had kept its courage, and the universe would remember.